You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Russia's President Vladimir Putin is ready to halt the war in Ukraine after a negotiated ceasefire that recognizes the current battlefield lines. Three sources in Putin's inner circle expressed his frustration with Western-backed efforts to hinder the negotiations. Putin voiced concerns to advisers about Zelensky's refusal to engage in talks. They spoke anonymously because of the sensitive nature of the matter. 5 persons familiar with Putin's inner circle were consulted. One source did not comment on halting the war as the current front lines. Putin's spokesperson Dmitry Peskov emphasized Russia's openness to dialogue for its goals. He said Russia does not desire perpetual conflict. And Dasha Chernyshova joins us from Moscow. Dasha, Reuters news agency cites sources in Putin's inner circle as saying that Putin expressed his frustration with Western-backed efforts to hinder the ceasefire negotiations with Ukraine. Now, could you put the text of the Reuters interview in its proper context for our viewers?
Well, indeed, we have heard from Reuters citing sources about the desire of the Russian president to freeze the conflict in the current borders. Having said that, you have to keep in mind that Moscow has insisted for many months now that it wants to achieve the goals, what it calls its special military operation in Ukraine. And this is to establish the proper borders of the Lugansk and Donetsk People's Republic within their administrative borders. That means that Russia is very far from achieving those goals. Moscow is yet to get full control over those territories. Moscow, in the meantime, has also under its control the territories of the Zaporizhia region as well as Kherson region. So there is a lot more to be done when it comes to the fighting on the ground. And also we have heard Moscow repeating constantly that Moscow is open for the negotiations. But having said that, you have to keep in mind that Moscow will be negotiating, but it will be negotiating on the current realities on the ground. This is what the Kremlin has been saying is the prerequisite for the start of those negotiations, and saying that at this moment, as Moscow doubts the legitimacy of the current president of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky, whose term has expired earlier in May, Moscow has to establish whom it can negotiate with in Ukraine and whom it can trust, once again saying that it was frustrated the way how the negotiations proceeded back in 2022 when the sides met in Istanbul and negotiated a solution. And also we have heard today from the head of Russia's foreign intelligence, Sergei Narishkin, saying that the Western elites are frustrated because they understand that the strategic initiative is on the front lines, is in the hands of the Russian Federation. So in this current circumstance, it does not seem to be the case that Moscow will be willing to end the conflict at this moment on the current positions. Moscow will indeed be more likely achieving the goals until they are fully accomplished.
Dasha, for its part, Ukraine claims that Russia has got bogged down in street battles for Vovchansk, which is less than 5 kilometers from Russia. Now, Vovchansk has become an epicenter of fighting as Moscow seeks to create a buffer zone along the border. What more can you tell us about the fighting on there?
Well, we have heard from the Russian Ministry of Defense that they have been making steady gains on this direction in the Kharkiv region. We understand that over the past week, the Russian military have carried out 49 group strikes with high-precision long-range weapons to destroy the military equipment that Ukraine has, as well as to destroy the military infrastructure of the Ukrainian armed forces. Moscow has been saying that indeed the territory in the Kharkiv region is now needed to to become the buffer zone to prevent the Ukrainian armed forces from striking deeper inside Russia. But interestingly, we've heard also from Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov saying that the American weapons is already used against the objects on the Russian territory. So we understand to this moment that Moscow does have the strategic initiative, as we have heard the Russian officials insisting on that. But as for the situation in Vovchansk, we are yet to hear for more details from the Russian Ministry of Defense. In the meantime, they have been making gains there as well as on other directions, including in the Donetsk People's Republic.
Dasha, thank you. That was Dasha Chernyshova reporting from Moscow.